You're in a conversation with her, and you get that feeling. Something's just off. You can't quite name it, but your gut screams that she's holding back. That nagging suspicion sends you hunting for clues, for any sign to confirm what you sense. For decades, pop psychology and crime dramas have told us exactly what to look for. The shifty eyes, the fidgety hands, the nervous twitch that supposedly screams liar. But what if I told you that almost everything you think you know about spotting a liar is wrong? What if the very signs you're looking for are not only unreliable, but are actively misleading you? The scientific consensus is crystal clear. There is no single gesture, twitch, or glance that is a universal, reliable sign of deception. In fact, massive studies reviewing years of research have found that the average person's ability to detect a lie is only about 54% accurate. That's barely better than flipping a coin. As researchers have repeatedly stated, the looks and sounds of deceit are faint and unreliable. So, are we just lost? Not at all. The truth is way more nuanced and fascinating than the simple myths we've been fed. To really get it, we need to stop playing detective and start becoming students of human behavior. It means shifting our focus from looking for lies to understanding the science of psychological discomfort and something called cognitive load. In this video, we're not going to give you a cheap list of gotcha tricks. We're going to do something much more valuable. We'll take 8 common beliefs about body language and deception, find the grain of truth inside them, and then reveal what modern science actually says. We're replacing the myths with a smarter way of seeing nonverbal communication. By the end, you won't be a human lie detector because those don't exist, but you will have a much clearer lens to understand what her body language might really be telling you. This will empower you to handle those tough conversations with wisdom, not just suspicion. Clue number 1. The eye contact myth. Let's start with the most famous myth of all, one we've heard since we were kids. Liars can't look you in the eye. It's a stereotype that spans the globe. The thinking is that someone who's being deceptive feels guilty or scared, and their eyes, the windows to the soul, will instinctively look away. We picture the kid with their head down, caught with their hand in the cookie jar. It just feels true. And yet, the science overwhelmingly says it's false. A huge review of 158 different cues to deception found that looking away is not a reliable sign of a lie. Why? Because the stereotype is so famous that it's the very first thing a liar will try to control. Someone who's trying to deceive you knows you expect them to look away. So what do? Often, the exact opposite. They overcompensate with intense, unwavering eye contact to prove they're being sincere. It's a performance. This leads to the other side of the myth, that too much eye contact is also a sign of lying. So you're stuck in a paradox. Too little is suspicious. Too much is suspicious. The reality is, eye behavior alone just isn't a reliable gauge of truth. A person might look away because they're shy, anxious, or just thinking and trying to access a memory. Someone from a different culture might see prolonged eye contact as rude, and someone might hold your gaze because they're confident or interested. So, what's the smarter takeaway? Stop using eye contact as a truthometer. Instead of asking, why is she looking away? Or why is she staring? Try this. First, get a feel for her normal pattern of eye contact, her baseline. Then, notice if there's a major change when a sensitive topic comes up. A dramatic shift doesn't automatically mean lie. It signals a change in her internal state like stress, discomfort, or mental effort. The eye contact isn't the clue, the change is a signal that something just became psychologically important. That's your cue to be curious, not accusatory. Clue number 2, the fidgeting fallacy. Next up, another classic, the fidgeter. The belief is that when someone's hiding something, their inner nervousness leaks out through restless movements. She might play with her hair, tap her fingers, or rub the back of her neck. These are things we do to soothe ourselves when we feel stressed. The theory sounds solid. The stress of lying creates nervous energy, and that energy has to go somewhere. You will see countless articles listing fidgeting as a top sign of deception. But again, the science tells a more complicated story. While some people do get more agitated when they lie, it's not a universal rule. In fact, some studies have found the opposite can be true. Think about it from the liar's point of view. Just like with eye contact, they know that looking nervous can make them look guilty. To fight this, they might do the opposite of fidgeting. They might become unusually still. They consciously suppress their movements, leading to a rigid, frozen posture. They're so busy managing their story that their body's natural movements just stop. So, like before, we have a contradiction. Is fidgeting the sign, or is it becoming unnaturally still? The answer is neither. Analyses have confirmed that cues like fidgeting have a weak link to deception at best. A person might fidget because they're cold, bored, or just a high-energy person. A woman might play with her hair out of habit or even as a flirting gesture. These actions mean very different things for different people in different situations. The scientifically sound approach isn't to look for fidgeting, but to look for a change from her baseline level of movement. If you're talking to someone who is naturally animated and they suddenly go stiff when you ask a specific question, that's a noteworthy shift. If a normally calm person suddenly starts tapping their foot, that's also a big deviation. The clue isn't the fidgeting or the stillness itself. The clue is the change from her normal state. This change points to a spike in cognitive load or emotional stress. It's a yellow light, not a red one. Clue number 3. The science of a stressed brain. Cognitive load. Okay, we've busted two huge myths. So, if we can't rely on these simple signs, what can we look for? To answer that, we need to understand the most important scientific theory in modern deception detection: cognitive load. Simply put, telling a lie is hard work for the brain. When you tell the truth, you're just recalling a memory. It's easy. But when you invent a lie, your brain has to do several things at once. First, it has to suppress the truth. Second, it has to invent a believable story. Third, it has to keep that new story straight. Fourth, it has to watch you for signs of disbelief. And fifth, it has to act out the emotions that go with the fake story. This mental juggling act is incredibly demanding. Brain scans confirm this, showing that the parts of the brain responsible for problem solving and attention have to work much harder when a person is lying. This extra mental effort is what scientists call high cognitive load. And this is where we can find more reliable, though still subtle, signs. When the brain is working that hard just to manage the lie, it has fewer resources left to manage the body's normal, automatic behaviors. It's like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach while reciting the alphabet backward. Other things start to slip. This concept is the key that separates scientific reality from pop psychology fiction. The most useful clues aren't signs of lying itself, they are the behavioral side effects of a brain under heavy strain. Keep cognitive load in mind, because the best clues are not about nervousness, but about the observable effects of intense mental effort. Clue number 4. The gesture-speech mismatch. This brings us to our first clue rooted in the science of cognitive load: the gesture-speech mismatch. This one is fascinating. In a normal, truthful conversation, our hand gestures are perfectly synced with our words, often even starting a split second before the word they emphasize. If you say, "I caught a huge fish," your hands show the size right as you say huge. This is automatic. But when someone is under the high cognitive load of lying, that sync can fall apart. Their brain is so busy with the verbal story that the resources for natural, timed gestures get delayed. The result? The gesture might come after the word. She might say, "He went that way," and only after the sentence is done does her hand point. Or she might say, "I was so angry," and then a moment later, a clenched fist follows, like an echo of the emotion. This lag reflects the brain's internal struggle. It has to consciously think story first, and only then can it produce the matching nonverbal action. Some studies using motion capture have even found measurable differences in the timing of body movements between liars and truth-tellers. It's like there's a slight but noticeable lag between the director's line and the actor's performance. Now, here's the crucial reality check. While this is a cool concept, even clues like this, which have a solid scientific basis, are not strong enough for real-world lie detection. The effects can be extremely subtle and require careful observation. A person could also have a mismatch because they're tired, distracted, or just carefully choosing their words about a sensitive, but truthful, topic. So, don't use this as a standalone gotcha. Think of it as another piece of data. If you see a pattern where gestures seem to lag behind words, it's a strong indicator that the person's brain is working unusually hard. It's a sign of increased cognitive load. Your job isn't to yell, "Aha, a mismatch." It's to recognize that mental effort and get curious about why it's happening. If you're finding these science-based insights helpful for separating fact from fiction, take a second to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're all about giving you content that goes deeper than the surface-level myths, and your support helps us keep doing it. Clue number 5. The myth of hiding hands. Let's tackle another bit of body language folklore, the hands. You've heard it. Hiding your hands means hiding the truth. This could be hands in pockets, behind the back, or sitting on them. The folk wisdom is symbolic. Hands represent honesty, so hiding them is an act of concealment. Another related belief is that liars might overgesture, using their hands excessively to distract you. These ideas are popular because they're simple and easy to spot. Unfortunately, they're also not backed up by good science. Meta-analyses have found that hand and arm movements are not reliable indicators of lying. Here's why. Hiding your hands is a common response to feeling cold, uncomfortable, or just being relaxed. For many, hands in pockets is just a default resting position. It has no deeper meaning. On the flip side, overgesturing is just as flimsy. Some people are naturally expressive and talk with their hands all the time. For them, lots of gestures are their baseline. So, where does that leave us? Once again, it pushes us away from a simple checklist and toward the smarter concept of baseline behavior. Is she someone who normally talks with her hands, but has suddenly hidden them? Or is she usually still, but is now gesturing in a way that seems unnatural for her? It is the deviation from her norm that's potentially meaningful. But even then, we have to be careful. A change in hand gestures, at best, signals a change in emotional state or comfort level. It might mean she's feeling defensive or insecure. It doesn't automatically mean she's lying. Maybe the topic made her uncomfortable for a personal reason. Maybe she feels judged. Instead of thinking she's hiding her hands, so she's hiding the truth, a more accurate thought is her body language has become more closed. Something about this is making her uncomfortable. I wonder what that is. Clue number 6. The fallacy of postural shifts and barriers. These leads right into our next myth, postural shifts and barriers. This is the belief that when someone is hiding something, they will physically create distance or a barrier between you and them. This could mean crossing her arms, angling her body away, or placing an object like a purse or a coffee cup on her lap between you. The psychological reasoning seems to make sense. It's a subconscious attempt to block the other person and create a protective shield. It signals defensiveness and a desire to close off. But just like everything else we've talked about, when you put this under the scientific microscope, the claim that it reliably points to deception falls apart. The current scientific consensus is that posture and using objects as barriers are not reliable indicators of lying. The main reason is there are just too many other explanations. A person might cross their arms because they're cold. They might do it because it's comfortable. They might shift because they've been sitting too long. Placing a purse on a lap is often just a habit. Labeling these everyday behaviors as signs of deception is a classic case of confirmation bias. If you already suspect she's lying, you'll see her crossed arms as proof of defensiveness. If you believe her, you'll see the exact same gesture and think she's just getting comfortable. Your existing belief changes how you see the evidence. The responsible approach is to resist that urge to jump to conclusions. A sudden postural shift isn't evidence of a lie. At most, it's a potential sign of emotional or physical discomfort. If a conversation is flowing, and she suddenly crosses her arms and leans back right after you ask a tough question, it's not proof of anything. It's a nonverbal sign that the emotional temperature just changed. It could mean she feels attacked, is uncomfortable with the topic, or disagrees with you. Your best response isn't a mental accusation, but a moment of self-reflection. Did the tone shift? Did you say something that could be seen as judgmental? Approaching it with this emotional intelligence is way more productive than using a simplistic checklist to catch her. Clue number 7. The myth of the micro-expression. Now we come to a clue that has reached mythical status, thanks to TV shows, the micro-expression. This is a very brief, involuntary facial expression that flashes across someone's face, supposedly revealing an emotion they're trying to hide. It might be a flicker of fear or a flash of contempt, lasting only a fraction of a second. The theory is that when someone is hiding a strong emotion, the true feeling can leak out before the brain can consciously stop it. Proponents have claimed that training people to spot these fleeting expressions is a scientifically reliable way to detect lies. It sounds amazing, like a secret window into the soul. The problem is, recent and comprehensive reviews of the science have found no solid support for this claim. A 2020 review in the journal Frontiers in Psychology stated plainly that the popular hypothesis of microexpressions as lie indicators has no scientific support. Another study even found that people trained in spotting them actually did worse than chance when trying to identify liars in real-life videos. So what's the deal? There are two big issues. First, true microexpressions are incredibly rare. It's impractical to rely on something that almost never happens. Second, and more importantly, even if you spot one, it only tells you what emotion the person is feeling, not why they're feeling it. Imagine you accuse someone of something and you see a flash of fear. You might think, aha, fear of being caught. But that's a huge leap. It could just as easily be fear of being disbelieved, fear of a false accusation, or fear based on a past trauma. The microexpression reveals an emotion, but the source of that emotion is a mystery. To treat a microexpression as proof of a lie is a dangerous oversimplification. At best, it's a signal that the emotional stakes are high. It tells you there's an underlying emotion that isn't being openly expressed. That's valuable information, but it is not a verdict. Clue number 8. The gold standard, baseline deviations in clusters. So, we've torn down one myth after another. We've seen that individual cues, eye contact, fidgeting, posture are faint and unreliable on their own. So, what actually works? Or at least, what's the most responsible and effective tool we have? It's this: establishing a baseline and looking for clusters of deviation. A baseline is how a person normally acts when they're relaxed and talking about something low stakes, like their weekend plans. Pay attention to her normal posture, her typical amount of eye contact, her common hand gestures, the pace and pitch of her voice. This is her unique behavioral signature. A potential sign of concealment isn't a specific behavior, but a significant change from that baseline when a sensitive topic comes up. But and this is critical, you don't look for just one change. You look for a cluster of changes happening at the same time. For example, you ask a difficult question. You might notice that she simultaneously breaks eye contact channel 1, her vocal pitch goes up slightly channel 2, she crosses her arms channel 3, and she shifts her body away from you channel 4. It is not any one of these signs that is important. It is the fact that for different behavioral channels all changed at the exact same moment. This cluster of deviations from her baseline is a strong indicator that her cognitive load and emotional stress have suddenly spiked. However, and this is the final, crucial point, even this gold standard is not a lie detector. The scientific feedback is clear. Even with this method, overall accuracy in spotting lies is low. This cluster of cues does not tell you why her stress level went up. It just tells you that it went up. She could be lying. Or she could be telling the truth but is terrified you won't believe her. She could be feeling deep shame about the truthful answer. The cluster of cues signals that you have hit a nerve. It is a big, flashing sign that says, this topic is psychologically significant. The most skillful and emotionally intelligent response is not to pounce and accuse. It's to soften your tone, get curious, and maybe ask a gentle, open-ended question like, it seems like that's a difficult thing to talk about. What's coming up for you? This approach shifts you from the role of an interrogator trying to catch a liar to the role of a partner trying to understand. So, let's be clear. The idea of becoming a human lie detector by memorizing a checklist of body language signs is a myth. The search for a Pinocchio's nose has been a scientific dead end. Shifty eyes, fidgety hands, and crossed arms are just as likely to lead you to false conclusions as to the truth. The real key to understanding what someone isn't saying lies in a more patient, nuanced, and scientific approach. It's about letting go of the desire to be a mind reader and instead becoming a better observer of human behavior. First, establish a baseline. Understand how a person acts when they're relaxed. Second, look for clusters of simultaneous changes across their body, voice, and face when a specific topic is introduced. And third, and most importantly, interpret this cluster not as proof of a lie, but as evidence of increased emotional discomfort or cognitive load. Use this observation not as a weapon to corner someone, but as a guide to ask better, more empathetic questions. The goal isn't to catch a liar, it's to create an environment where the truth feels safe enough to come out. By replacing suspicion with curiosity and pop psychology myths with scientific understanding, you move beyond the simplistic game of lie detection and into the far more rewarding art of genuine humancy. On action. Which of these myths have you heard the most? And has this changed how you'll approach these situations in the future? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring the science of human behavior, make sure to watch our next video. Thanks for watching.